Now we're going to run the RM3A test itself from start to finish. First thing you want to make sure of is that the patient has their feet on the foot plates and that both the connectors are connected together, left being red, right being black, and that they're hooked up and the patient's feet are squarely on those plates. Okay? Then you want to put the pulse oximeter on the patient's finger. Put it on the right finger preferably, like so. Make sure it's over the top of the nail and it sits up like that, square with the end of the finger, like so. Okay? Have them put that down on the table, relax completely, make sure that it's squared the way they want it, where you want it, and now you're ready to go. All right? That's this portion. You'll have a blood pressure machine over here. It's a portable blood pressure machine that comes with a unit. And you're going to go ahead and put the blood pressure cuff on their left arm, make it nice and snug, and then just before the test starts, we're going to start the blood pressure cuff before the test begins. Now, we're set up and prepared for this test, and the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to enter the patient's data. Now, normally, I wouldn't have this on the finger yet, and I wouldn't have the blood pressure on when we're first entering the patient's information. They'd be taking their shoes and socks off. Now they're ready to go, and I would start this. But right now, I've reversed it so that we make sure everything's prepared and we don't have to go in and look at it again. So right now, we're going to go ahead and bring up the RM3A. We're going to start the program, and we're going to add a new patient. You go right up here, just like you did on the ABI. You click there, and you enter the patient's first name. We're going to go test patient number 2, space 2. No periods, no dots, no nothing. Now we're going to go ahead, it's male. We're going to put in a date of 11/12, and we're going to make it 1986. Okay? Now, we're ready to go ahead and take it to the next step. So we click here. The next screen comes up, as you can see, and now we're going to put the patient's height in, and you notice it's identically, basically the same as the ABI is. Hit enter here, put 5 foot, 4 inches, put weight at 135 pounds, okay? And then we put their exercise level. You have the patient tell you what level this is. What type of exercise do you normally do?
Sport.
Sport? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to do sport. So you click on sport. Now it's highlighted when you click on it, like so. Hold on here, there. And we're ready to run this test. So we go ahead over here, we hit OK, and we come up over here, we hit OK a second time, and then we tell the patient, we're getting ready to run the test. Keep this hand stable, don't move it around. And we then start the blood pressure machine. We just hit the button on the blood pressure machine, give it about 3 seconds to 4 seconds, somewhere in that neighborhood, and then you start the test by clicking on the OK button right here.
Phase 1. We are processing your heart rate detection and the calibration of the pulse wave and blood pressure wave.
This is the longest portion of the test. It takes a couple of minutes to get through the baseline to where you're going to get the blood pressure reading. Now, if at any point in time you get to the end of this section and this box right here does not come up, that means that one of the wires on the foot plate is not on, or the patient does not have their feet on the foot plate. As soon as they put their feet on the foot plate or you attach the wire, it would come up with this box. Okay? Very important. But generally, if you set up correctly, you won't have to worry about that. Here's where you enter the blood pressure right off the machine as soon as it's done. And say it's 120/65. You can hit tab 3 times and hit OK, like this. Or you could just enter with the enter button or the mouse and click on it the same way. This is going to run the very longest portion of this section of the test, about 2.5 minutes. And it's going to do a complete calibration of 4 different extremities, and they'll show up in blue, white, orange, and green lines, just like you see here. And this is doing a baseline test of the overall condition of the patient using their heart rate detection and their digital arterial waveform. This is very important that you're around the 5, 6, 7 range all the time. If it gets down to 4 once in a while, it's okay. It just traditionally means that you didn't have the pulse oximeter quite squared, or that the battery may be low, whatever it may be, but you just make sure it's always around 5, 6, 7, and it will vary a little bit. This particular connection is very good. We're at 7 solid so far. As you can see now, we've gone through the white, the blue, white, and now we're to the orange, and it'll go all the way through to the end, and you'll see the green go through last. You can see here this is varied to 6, and we'll see how it goes, whether it goes back down to 5, back up to 7, whatever it may do. Right now it's running a good connection. If the patient's feet are very cold, you can get very little readings, like 2, 3, 4, which means the test is probably not going to complete correctly. If the hands are real cold, the same thing can happen, or if the pulse oximeter is not set correctly. So you just check those things to make sure. And you'll notice now we're running through, and we are now finishing about 3/4 of the way through the green line, which is the 4th of these 4 that we're going to be doing. And the reading's been very good to this point. Now, here's where we're going to ask the patient, go ahead and take your feet off the foot plates and put them to the side. You're not going to be using them now at this point. We generally will slide the foot plates out of the way so they don't step on them. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say, we're going to start the Valsalva maneuver. This is where, when I tell you to, you're going to take your left hand, you're going to take a deep breath, take your 2 fingers of your left hand, plug your nose, hold your breath, and apply some pressure into your nose, and you're going to do that for about 15 seconds. Okay, make sure it's a good pressure, but not real hard, just a nice firm pressure, like you were clearing your ears. Are you ready to go? Yep. Go ahead, hold your breath, plug your nose, and go ahead. That's when I start the button, and we're off to the races. We are not using the blood pressure here, and won't use it again until the stand-up portion of the test, which is the 5th section of the test. This is our first stress test on this patient. And you notice he stopped holding his breath at 15, because that's when they stop doing that. And you always watch for that, because if they ever forget, it can throw the test off. So make sure you watch and make sure they stop at 15 and breathe normally. And always keep this hand stable. We're coming up to the end of the second portion of the test now. All right. Now what we're going to do is the deep breathing portion of the test. What you're going to do when I tell you to is you're going to begin breathing in slowly for 5 seconds and back out for 5 seconds. You're going to follow my hand. As it goes up to the top, you want to get to the top of your breath. As it gets to the bottom, you want to get to the bottom of your breath, and you want to match it to the timer in 5-second increments. Okay? So here we go. You ready? Breathe in slowly, following my hand for 5 seconds. All right. Back out. Make sure you get all the way to the bottom of your breath at 10 seconds. Then breathe back in, all the way to the top of your breath at 15. Now back down to the lower at 20. And then back in to 25. And then back out to 30. Now go ahead and relax and breathe normally now. Okay, now, the next portion of this test, and don't do it until I tell you to, I'm going to have you stand up. And you want to keep this hand very stable. And then you're going to stand up, and we're going to finish this test out. Now, I'm going to start the blood pressure test again. So I click, I give it 3-4 seconds or so, maybe a little longer to get started. And then I say to the patient, are you ready? Go ahead and stand up. Go ahead. Now, when he stands up, I then start it after he stands up, so that we get a variation of that distance between sitting and standing. And that's where these readings are going to come in and change a little bit. It's going to tell us how they react to that, which is very important. Now, when it gets to the end of this test, it's going to bring up that same blood pressure screen. Only this time, as you notice, it's going to come up without his feet on the foot plates like it did the first time. See? You put in the reading that the blood pressure gives you. Okay, and then you hit enter. Now you have a completed test. Now this particular patient is in very good shape. Okay? Green is normal, yellow is abnormal, orange or red is high. This patient is very healthy. Okay? Also, if you look here, you're going to see that you have the spinal column here. You have all of your different types of organs here. And if you were to go here on this screen and click this little button right here, it actually breaks down all these individual parts and how your health is affecting your spine and all these different areas. Pretty cool. So at heart, you look at it, and when you click on it, it'll tell you it's normal. If there's a discoloration of the spine, like right here, okay, it's probably a little out of range, or it's normal, it depends. And it shows you how the heart's blinking. It shows you all kinds of really cool stuff. So that's a real neat little thing to show a patient as to how it evaluates. It's not really used a lot on the test. Now that we're all finished, while the patient is there, the first thing we're going to do is say, now go ahead and sit down. And I'm going to run your report real quick and bring it up on the screen. So I click the print button, and you're going to see the screen flashing. And it's going to bring up all these different screens that you're going to see that you'd have to drill down to in this on the screen here to do, and it'll become a PDF. This PDF is automatically loadable and importable to any of the electronic medical systems that are out there that track all this stuff, or you can save it to a file. This particular thing you see here is the wellness portion of our test. This evaluates the patient's BMI, the amount of body fat mass, lean mass, intercellular, extracellular water. It's a real wellness-oriented program. It works extremely well in our clinical obesity side testing of our system. Next to that is our actual report. What comes up on the screen is that same screen we had before with some explanation on the right-hand side. As you drill down, this is a total of 7 pages. And each page will give you a substantial amount of data behind those summaries, as you can see here. On page 3, we've got a bit of an elevation in their PTGR, which is basically cardiovascular. Okay? But it's the only thing that's up there, which just means the patient might be a little nervous, or they just had a little bit more activity than is normal. Okay? Go to page 4, there's data there. Go to page 5. 6, and 7. A lot of data, a lot of information that gives a tremendous breakdown of the health condition of the patient, which again, if you go back to page 1, is summarized beautifully right there.